and welcome to episode 3 of Are You Enjoying This? With your hosts, Sophie and Emily.
Yay, it's me. I'm Emily. And if you have never been here before, this is a podcast dedicated to watching critically panned and largely maligned cinema and then telling you what we thought of it.
This week, we are watching Cats. Unfortunately, not the 1999 version, which is perfection. The 2019 version, which all gave us COVID. I will say, as a disclaimer, if you have watched our reaction, there is a possibility that you've seen me shout at Emily a few times that the main character is definitely Taylor Swift. Yeah, I was wrong. It was not Taylor Swift the whole time.
Yeah, so like...
The whole time.
Yeah, asterisk. I was confident, and we'll go into this, but there is a new character that is added to the cast of Cats, and Sophie was adamant that it was Taylor Swift, and I was adamant that it was not Taylor Swift, and it turns out I was correct. So for any Swifties, sorry.
I hate to repeat myself, but actually, the main character of the film is not added, but just merely elevated from a non-important role.
Yes. Well, there is a white cat.
And she's a ballet cat, and that is the main character for some reason.
Yes. We will take you through the plot of Cats 2019, and as we go, we will discuss what we thought of those various versions of the plot. Now, this is interesting because in the past we've covered Emilia Perez, something neither of us had seen.
Nope.
And then we covered Twilight, something that you had seen many times and I had never seen.
An appropriate amount of times.
No comment. I would argue none is appropriate. But we have both seen Cats, the stage show
VHS.
Because
we were too poor to go and see it in real life as children,
yes.
But I watched my grandmother's VHS of it until it was worn out.
Yes, the
I loved
joy
it.
of being children of the 90s and also sisters is that when you have your 10 VHS tapes, you do watch them into the ground. And so we've seen Cats a number of times, and I will say we're not going into this as Cats haters because we really enjoy
love
it.
Cats.
Yeah.
I think Andrew Lloyd Webber should be tried at The Hague. But I will say I really like Cats. I do really like it. I won't go and see the new version though. Sorry, Nicole Scherzinger. You're no Elaine Page.
Nicole Scherzinger?
Yes.
I can't learn any more depressing things about Cats today. Okay.
No. I would also like to say, as another disclaimer, that we have the qualifications to discuss Cats the musical and Cats in real life because we have had cats our whole lives.
It's true.
And we love cats. Cat's my favourite animal. Like, me and cats are best buddies. Also, I would like to add on to that where I live, there is an alley cat who lives outside. He's called Pumbaa. He's a tuxedo cat, and I love him. And I saw him this morning, and he just turned up on my doorstep. So don't try and ask me for my qualifications. I have them. I have them all. I love the musical. I've had cats, and I know cat.
Okay.
Anyway.
Fantastic.
Let us begin.
Sophie has been on a theatre stage or two.
Yes.
She's sadly never performed Cats, although...
No, I have been on a West End stage when I was a child, so it doesn't count.
I would love to see it, yes. The same way that I'm a published author.
Yeah.
I wrote a poem when I was like 9 that got in a children's poem.
And with that, I shall start us on the first chunk of the plot. Victoria, a young white cat, is abandoned by her owner in the streets of London in the middle of the night. Witnessing this, a group of alley cats introduce themselves to her as the jellicles. Mr. Mistopheles, Munkustrap, Cassandra, Demeter take Victoria under their wing and show her the world of the jellicles as they prepare for the Jellicle Ball, an annual ceremony where cats must compete to be chosen to go to the Heaviside layer and be granted a new life. This is the first time we had ever realised that in the musical Cats, what they are competing for is to die.
I will say, Cats being a musical about suicide was not the realisation I was expecting to have. Because, so, for those of you who've never seen it or engaged with it, it's based on a book of poetry called Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats by T.S. Eliot. So, basically, they're really fun poems. If you're between 10 and 12, go read them.
Might like
they're
them,
great.
yeah.
They're delightful. Very cute. And so a lot of the songs are based on that book, or pretty much all of them except for Memories. The situation is that obviously this book of poems has no through line. So the musical Cats, they try and add a through line as to why all these cats are just telling you about themselves. Because that's essentially all that happens in Cats, is someone goes up and goes, I'm this kind of cat, and then sings you a little song and does a dance. I'm that kind of cat. So the reason that they're doing it is to try and win the jellicle ball, which means that they get to die and come back as their ideal type of cat, which is insane. From the it's humans dressed up as cats running around hissing at each other, to the actual thin strip of plot that exists, that just, it's like the singular piece of masking tape holding the whole thing together, also makes no sense.
It is really true. It makes more sense on the stage because they can be a bit more abstract, but in the film they're like, no, you will understand this. There will be a plot, and at no point was any of it necessary.
It's really just about the performances and being like really over the top and like bombastic. You're not sitting there being like, oh my god, what's McCavity going to do next? Because you're
just here for the vibes.
You're here for the vibes.
Yeah.
So I will say, from the very beginning of the film, the vibes are not good.
I will say, my flatmate, who is also again a musical theatre person, said when you watch the film, watch out for the proportions of the cats as referring to different objects. And I will say that was the biggest issue this film had, because nothing made sense proportions wise. Right at the beginning of the film, a cat jumps onto a sofa cushion and is probably about half the size of the sofa cushion, pretty much the size of a cat, right? And then in the next shot, he's holding a potato masher over his shoulder that is like twice the length of him.
Yeah.
That's a potato masher. How small is that cat?
You're like, what kind of mega masher is this? And all the way through, there is absolutely no consistency, because something I really did not like about this is it's trying desperately to be grounded in reality.
Yeah.
Right? And so in the stage production, obviously you don't have multiple different sets. So the set they have is a pile of human stuff, kind of abstract human bits and bobs. And if you look at it, you go, oh wait, is that an office chair, or is that whatever? In this, they are going, no, you are in London, there is an era, there is a theme. And so watching the cats, which are just people with weird faces and suits and tails going on, sort of picking up different things, and like their proportions just dramatically changing depending on, I don't know who made the object, because there's a lot of practical, set that's been created. And so like right from the beginning, even from this new cat that's been added, who's our introductory cat, she is like thrown out of someone's car at the beginning, and it's really like a very abrupt and uncomfortable start, because like as the music's swelling, you're just watching this like sack of cat get like plunged to the floor, and it's like da 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 bonk. Not a vibe for me. If you want it to feel grounded and real, which cats should never feel real because it's ridiculous, that if you want that, don't make it so that I'm like, what is happening? Like, why is that a 2-meter potato masher? Why, like, she fell on like a mattress and took up the whole mattress.
One point, she is running around with Mungo, Jerry and Rumpelteazer, and she's doing some cat thievery, and she accidentally gets a ring, like a ring a human would wear on their finger, around her wrist, like a bangle.
And it's like swinging around.
Yeah, I was like, how small is this cat? That's like guinea pig size. Like, gonna have to keep...
Canonically, she's guinea pig size.
Honestly.
No, but 100%. And it is really confusing, because I understand they want the action of putting all the human jewellery on her. And I thought that was cute. But, like, it could have at least been, like, an earring, because earrings can be a variety of sizes.
Yeah.
But, like,
generally a ring
finger that would fit around a cat's wrist.
Yeah, I mean,
room.
Not unless you had really massive hands.
You better have some elephantitis of the fingers, is all I'm saying.
Exactly.
But, so the film starts, and in the stage production, it's being performed to the audience, right? So they're singing to you. And I thought that would be the framing device. But instead what they've done is they've added this new white cat, who they're then like, are you a cat? are you a cat? And it's like, yeah, babe, she is a cat. Because the way that it usually works is they're singing to you, humans in the audience, and they're going, were you there when the Sphinx was built? Can you jump off something and jump on your head and land on your feet?
Yeah.
But, like, she's a cat, so obviously she can. So, like, that kind of undermines the beginning. And it also feels really aggressive because, like, when the cats are doing it to humans, they're like, ooh, we've clocked you. You guys are weird. What are you doing here? You're not like us. But, like, she is explicitly like that, down to the weird cat fingers.
I mean, I will say again in the musical, because they didn't put paws on them or anything, the hands are really weird.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like the way they rendered the tails doesn't work.
I hated the tails.
Because I don't think they've actually ever really studied, like, cat behaviour. Because quite early on, she comes face to face with McCavity, who, again, in the stage production, as a child, used to genuinely terrify me. Because he'd pop up and just be like, and you'd be like, oh my God, it's like, it's a demon. It was really jarring. Whereas it was just Idris Elba in a coat and a hat. Like,
he was awful.
He wasn't scary at all. But she's supposed to be scared of him, and her face is all like, oh, and then her tail's like up here. And I'm like, if you've got a scared cat, it's either like up, like a ruler in the air, or it's like between their legs and they're scared.
Yeah, cats, when they're uncomfortable, their tails go down. So,
generally, yeah.
It just was
odd. It was just really odd, and I just was like, no, none of this makes sense and none of it works. Bad.
No, yeah, and then so it starts with them singing a song after the who are you a cat? They then sing her a song about being a jellicle cat. Something which they never really go into detail of what the hell that means, because it doesn't really mean anything.
No.
I guess it's their group. But it's about how you have another name. So she's called Victoria by her owners, but she has another true cat name that only she knows, i.e. McCavity or Mungo Jerry or whatever. She never gets one, which is kind of a bummer, because they sing this big song about it and then, like, nothing comes of it. So that's the opening.
Yeah, it's odd. That I found really odd.
Even though at the end she's clearly, like, accepted into the group and in love with one of the cats. Ick.
Oh.
Did not enjoy that.
No.
Even then, you still don't know anything about, like, what she likes, you know?
Yeah. Most of the Jellicle Ball competitors are introduced and sing about themselves. Jenny Anydots, a domestic tabby who sleeps during the day and by night boosts the productivity of mice and roaches. The Rum Tum Tugger, an extravagant yet indecisive cat who riles up the others. That's a very PC way of saying what he does. Bustopher Jones, a bourgeois cat who boasts about his weight and shares food scraps from the garbage. Skimbleshanks, a tidy ginger cat who tap dances and supervises the operation of a train. And Gus, an aged theatrical cat who has has had some of the biggest roles in history. Right.
So we'll begin
with Jenny Anydots.
Travesty and crime that is Jenny Anydots.
Who is unfortunately played by Rebel Wilson.
I will say the first half of the film is the most unwatchable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever say it really hits its stride, but beginning, like, the Jenny Anydots song is a very, like, accessible way to start. It's not as, like, rambunctious as some of the other songs.
It's like stylistically, it flits between, like, a nice sort of sentimental song and then, like, ragtime kind of music. And so it's really fun.
Yes.
Jinx, Touchwood, Padlock. The podcast is by me now. Emily must be mute. Anyway, unlock. How do you know we're siblings? Oh my God. So it's a really fun and upbeat song. It's a really good way to, like, start off the cat's introductions, because everybody knows a cat that all day sleeps and then at night is, like, ping-ponging off the walls, like, really like a real, like, energetic cat at night.
Exactly. Like, everybody jokes about, like, it's 3 a.m, why is my cat running around?
Yeah.
Like, climbing the walls.
Yeah.
That's Jenny Anydots. And that brings you in to the world of cats really well. Because, right, the whole thing is the cats are singing about their experiences, like, in their big, complicated cat lives. But we know what those cats are actually like.
Yeah.
Because when they're going, she sleeps and sleeps and sleeps here, she sleeps there, she sleeps there. Oh, and then when the day's hustle and bustle is done, she's gone crazy, right?
Yeah.
you immediately buy into the world of cats, because they're not trying to tell you, oh, your cat's secretly a rocket scientist or
exactly
something. Like, what they're trying to say is, this is all going to be about the little
nuances and character traits that all cats have.
Exactly. So, like, even like the more bombastic, crazy cats, you can still go, yeah, I've known animals like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's a really, really good introduction to that. And Jenny Anydots is such a cute little cat character.
Yeah.
She's so sweet. And the whole, like, way that... Because they do have her do this, like, clothing transition in the theatre production. Where she takes off her big coat and she's got her little, like...
flapper dress on.
Yeah.
And her mice do some like tap dancing and roaches, and it's really cute and it's really lovely and it's just cheerful.
Yes.
And I can't honestly even really remember what happened in the film, because I just remember being like, this is so bad, oh my god, how have they ruined Jenny Anydots? Well, it's probably one of the most simple ones to do.
It literally is. It was quite like a difficult first setup. Right? Not that the song is difficult, but they made it into this absolutely huge production.
Yeah.
And it's our first song from an individual cat. And they cast Rebel Wilson because obviously she's a good comedic actress. The issue is she can't sing.
No.
And she can't dance.
No.
And she most certainly cannot do them both at the same time.
No. Yeah, I will say, as a big girl myself, she, for the entire song, sounds so out of breath.
Yes.
And you said it was the same director that did Les Mis, so all of the dancing and the vocal is filmed and recorded at the same time. And she cannot do that.
And I don't blame her.
You know,
dancing
it's really
and
difficult.
singing and being in costume and all of that stuff is difficult for anyone, right? People who do musical theatre on stage are some of the most trained and professional, like, athletic actors. You know, they are incredible at what they do. And so I don't blame her for not being able to do that. She has a skill set that not everybody has, but it's not that. And so it immediately jumps into her absolutely wheezing across the stage. It just does not sound good.
And then there's a moment where she, like, instead of in the show, they take off her coat and it's all very cute. She, like, unzips her fur.
Yeah.
And underneath is, like, got this sort of, like, waistcoat corset top, a full set of tits, and like some booty shorts, and it's horrifying. It was like actually quite revolting.
Well, it was creepy as well because she zips out of her cat skin, because when it's Jenny Anydots on stage, it looks like she's wearing a coat. It doesn't look creepily like, and it's metaphorically her shedding her big lazy cat persona to become her sneaky little nighttime cat version, not literally skinning herself. They even lined, something I noticed was they lined her cat suit with red, so it literally looks like flesh. And I was like, that
so vile.
It was gross. And then she's dancing around with these mice which are children, and so they've got little children's faces on them, and it's so creepy. And then they have a bunch of cockroaches which are also insanely tiny, and their faces are absolutely sliding about the place because they're just not keyframed on right, and they're all doing these dances, and then she's eating them, and it was
really repulsive,
really gross. It just gave me the ick, like all the way up and down gave me the ick.
Like, we can understand that even in the stage show, Jenny Anydots is having a chomp. She's running around, she's eating some mice, she's eating some cockroaches. But, like, we don't need to see it. We don't need to see the animals lose their heads.
No, especially not when they're dancing on stage.
Exactly.
Like, it's really weird. And again, the sizes don't make any sense either.
No.
Like, everything was all the mice were way too small. Like, in this, mice are like ladybird size. They're so small.
I will say, like, if we could do a probably 2-hour lecture on the mathematical lack of scale in this film. It is so it's so off at every moment. It is just so off.
After Jenny Anydots, which was not good, famously terrible, we go outside and then Jason Derulo starts doing his thing.
Yes. And I will say, God bless Jason Derulo, he can sing. And that was so needed by this point. However, his diction is mumbled, And if it wasn't for the fact I know that song, I wouldn't really have got what the song was about.
He sounded nice.
Yeah.
I could not tell you exactly what he was saying.
And to add on to that, the song is about how he's a bit of a fuckboy, basically. Rum Tum Tugger is the original cat fuckboy. So all of the kittens are like sort of howling and like, oh, isn't he gorgeous? But in the musical, they made it like really sexual. Like at one point he's holding someone's foot and he looks like he's gonna put it in their mouth.
I forgot about the foot.
The foot was so vile. He's rubbing himself on people and not like in a sort of like cute, like suggestive way, but like real. He's like real doing it. Like, I didn't enjoy the way they perceived or interpreted that song or performance.
I don't mind.
It upset me.
I don't mind the implication of sex. I don't want to see cat fucking.
No,
to be honest,
I don't think it's. I don't want to see cats in their weird kinks.
No, especially not your foot fetish.
No.
I will say as well that Cats, the stage show, is very sexual, but it's sexual because you're watching a bunch of incredibly athletic dancers in leotards rolling about the place, right? It's not necessarily sexual because anyone's like humping.
The most you're getting is like Rum Tum Tugger thrusting his hips a bit and gyrating a bit. He's basically kind of supposed to be like an Elvis character.
He's the Tom
All
Cat,
the young
you know?
girls are like, oh my goodness, he's so beautiful, well, handsome, sexy, whatever. Like, oh, I would want to get with him. And then all the older female cats are like, oh, Rum Tum Tugger.
Oh,
he is such a cad. He's a naughty cat. Like, they're really like rolling their eyes at him. And no, they just made it some weird, sexy performance, and it was awful.
I will say, though, Jason Derulo was pretty good. He can clearly dance. He can sing. I wish that we'd had a bit more, like a few more people who clearly worked in the theatre, in the production.
Yeah.
Because I love, like, the entirety of Cats is you need to hear the words. It's not something where you can read between the lines. It's them explicitly telling you, Rum Tum Tugger is like this. He is this kind of cat. And so if he's like, you're like, I don't know what that means.
And also on that topic of having more theatrically trained musical theatre professionals in the film, the vocal styles didn't mesh at all. So when they're singing in harmony, a lot of the time it's off.
It was off.
It was just like, it just felt quite... It was jarring on the ears. It was jarring on the eyes.
Yeah.
It was jarring on my soul. It was not good. It was really not good.
Concerning. Now, up next, we get the marvellous introduction of Bustopher Jones.
Okay. I love Bustopher Jones. And I will say that's for two reasons. Because I love eating and I'm fat. I love Bustopher Jones. He's a roly-poly little fella and he likes his food and he's got silver platters and he's got his nice little glasses and he's got his tuxedo on and he's a very posh cat.
Yes.
And he's wonderful and I've loved him forever. And then when he came on and he was played by James Corden. Oh, Christ. He's absolutely hideous in this. I hate that man.
So directly going from Rebel Wilson to James Corden was...
Oh, no. You had Jason Derulo in the middle of that. So you went from sexy Rebel Wilson eating children mice to sexy Rum Tum Tugger putting people's feet in his mouth, then to James Corden.
Yeah, but then they keep cutting back to James Corden and Rebel Wilson having little like skits with each other.
Yeah.
And it was awful.
Just diabolical.
I hated that. So then... Yeah, like at one point, Rebel Wilson is like, I could dance like that. And I'm like, then why? If you're saying I can't dance, why did we just watch a 15-minute dance breakdown with you if you can't dance?
Yeah.
Like, if you're saying, oh, this guy's so much better than me, why were we not just watching him the whole time?
I will say some of the comedy beats they tried to go for in the spoken parts of Bustopher Jones were just dry. They're so dry. They were just not even funny. There's a bit where... the James Corden Bustopher Jones character is standing on one side of a plank and he wants to be sort of catapulted into a bin full of lovely yummy food and another cat jumps on the other side of this plank to try and propel him into the air and he obviously goes nowhere because he's very big. And he's like, well, clearly I wouldn't be going anywhere. You're too small. Look at me. You know I'm sensitive about my size. At no point did we know that you're sensitive about your size.
He's singing a song going, I'm remarkably fat.
He literally, it's from a first person perspective. He
Yes.
says, in fact, I'm remarkably fat.
I'm sensitive about my weight. In fact, I'm remarkably
Fat.
sensitive about my weight.
Honestly, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's not funny. It's pure
Unless you
James
think
Corden comedy.
The act of being fat is in itself a joke and
Yeah.
funny. If you're not walking down the road seeing someone plus sized and roaring with laughter, then it's just not funny. The fact of being fat isn't a joke.
Guys, please don't do that. I'll cry. I can take a lot of criticism, but don't just start laughing at me for no reason.
No, but what I'm saying is
Yeah.
you don't do that.
No,
right?
exactly,
When you
exactly.
go see your Auntie Maud, you don't walk in the room and just bust into laughter.
Yeah.
And also, I don't like the personification of Bustopher
Yeah.
Jones as eating from bins.
Yeah.
The whole point of his song is he goes down this posh road and he goes into all the houses and they feed him tasty treats.
Yes.
He's eating venison and lamb and
he's
fancy
being
food.
served on platters with cloches.
Because he's that
with a napkin and a knife and fork.
Yes.
If you see, again, we do like the stage musical, but if you watch the stage musical version of Bustopher Jones, it's very different. He's not just catapulting into bins, finding a langoustine and necking it, which honestly made us feel quite unwell.
that was gross.
So absolutely-
James Corden throating the langoustine was a crime.
really
It
vile.
was a crime.
It's really vile. Right, now
Yes.
we have two more, and I will say...
Well, actually, there's one more thing I want to say.
Oh, is there?
At
So
this
sorry.
point, who shows up for the first time properly?
Oh my goodness.
McCavity.
Yeah.
It's Idris Elba in his pants. It was.
Yeah.
So, Bustopher Jones is kidnapped, as
Yeah.
is
Rebel Wilson.
And so, in the stage play, at one point, McCavity does kidnap Old Deuteronomy. In the film, they've decided to change it. So what McCavity is doing is not just kidnapping one person. He's trying to kidnap everybody, right? And so gradually, as we list through the cats, he's trying to kidnap them.
He's getting
And
picked off.
essentially, there's no specific way that that's done. Like, the first cat that he kidnaps is Rebel Wilson, Jenny Anydots. And he sort of kind of gets her on her own and, like, swoops her up. After that, that doesn't really seem to be a thing. He can basically click his fingers and you disappear.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really make sense. Well, in fact, none of it makes sense. Like, he's just appearing and disappearing. Like, the whole idea of him is he's this sneaky cat who can go around and, like, he's stealthy and he's sly. But instead of that, he's, like, literally doing magic. Like, he's like...
He's an
"Wow!"
actual magician.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he'll kidnap you. He'll go like,
Yeah.
you'll disappear and he'll go, McCavity, and vanish.
Yeah, it was shit.
Very, very strange. Wasn't scary. As Sophie said, like, he was supposed to be quite scary and
Yeah.
threatening. And instead it was bizarre.
They didn't even cut it to make it look
No.
scary. Whereas, like, in the musical, he pops up. There's thunder and lightning. Like, he's got all this crazy makeup on. He doesn't speak. He's just like... He's like a real, like, scary presence.
he's
he's a
a
jump
feral
scare.
cat, yeah.
He's a jump scare cat. And they didn't lean into that at all. They've just basically made him a bit of a road man.
Yeah.
Like, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work
he's
at all.
sort of a bit of like a sort of Cockney gangster vibe,
Yeah.
a bit of a film noir, got my hat
Yeah.
hanging at the corner. Kind of somewhere in between those two, that's where he is.
Yeah.
And so it isn't scary, and you don't really understand what the stakes are.
No.
Because immediately after this, both Rebel Wilson and James Corden wake up, appear
On a
unclear,
rubbish barge
Yeah.
in the middle of the Thames.
and I
Nobody
guess
knows why.
That's scary.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know. I don't know what the... And he was like... It just wasn't...
No.
There was no tension being built in
No.
that. Maybe if the cats were disappearing and you could see the other cats becoming worried, our numbers are dwindling and we don't know why, that could have been kind of scary and ominous, that they know that something's coming for them, but what is it?
Yeah.
But instead of that,
No.
you see where they go, they're on a barge.
Yeah,
Oh no, not a barge.
honestly. After that, if you can believe it, we get, I'm going to say this, two back-to-back very good performances.
Really good.
Right,
Love them both.
Skimble Shanks, the railway cat, the cat on the railway train, as he is sung.
Yes.
honestly, I was like, oh, this is going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard. I don't know how they're going to do this. Because in the stage play, there's a lot of really brilliant physical theatre, and like they all become the train, and it's really brilliant. The way they did it was very good. And I was like, I wonder how they'll do that in the film. They decide to do their own thing, which I appreciated. And they did it in a good way. And I honestly loved that whole performance. I thought it was really good. Like, no notes.
They hired a professional tap dancer.
Yeah.
He tap dances like a G. It looks sick. The energy is up.
It's great.
Because that's the thing with cats, is it's fast, it's kinetic, it's energetic.
Yeah.
The reason that you buy in is that it at no point does it slow down and let you think about it. It's just happening, and you're like, whoa, I'm so like enamored with all this craziness. Yeah. Whereas with the film, they keep bringing the energy down, They seem to keep trying to ground it. And that gives me the
Doesn't make sense.
And so with Skimbleshanks, it's tap dancing. It has to be fast. And he goes, and it is sick. It's really good.
I will say, though, again, the cats tap dancing on a railway line. They are thinner than the railway line. These cats must be like that big. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. But again, we're not gonna harp on about that, because that could be its own flipping video, and I'm sure people have covered the physics. I'm sure there's like a mathematician or a physicist on YouTube that's like, this is the issues with Cats the film. Honestly, Skimbleshanks I thought was great. I really enjoyed myself. Unfortunately, he does look a bit like Paul Breach. Why does he look like that sort of ginger nonce off TikTok? If you know who that is, you know it's not a good thing.
No, it's not good.
But like, it's fine. They made him ginger, and he just looks a bit dodgy, but the performance is great. Then you get on to Gus, or as we today learned, his full name is actually Asparagus. Gus the theatre cat. Now, what I think, again, they did really well with the casting of Gus, which was Ian McKellen. Firstly, you've cast Ian McKellen. He can do no wrong. No. He always gets the vibe. He is brilliant. Secondly, they cast someone who I think physically portrayed Gus and actually looked almost exactly the same as the original actor.
He was the least uncanny of the cats.
Yes. In comparison to the stage version, to the film, they went, that was a really good performance. We're going to put that in this world.
Yes.
We're not going to fuck with it too much. No. I don't know if that was an Ian McKellen choice.
I don't know if Ian just wouldn't take direction and said, I know how I'm doing this.
I'm doing it like this.
I'm doing it. Or if the director just really got Gus.
Just was like, you know what? Gus makes sense. The whole thing is based in a theatre or around a theatre. We're just going to move the performance from here to here and do no wrong to it. The only thing I will say is that it is very clear to me that Ian McKellen took, I'm going to say, a handful of edible hallucinogens before he started filming that performance, because he is on one. He is a cat. He loves it. He is so in. He is
I don't know if someone needs to tell Ian McKellen about furries, maybe.
Oh, we don't know.
He is loving it. He is rubbing himself against the walls.
He says touch wood at one point, rubs his head on the wooden frame of a door.
I was absolutely
loved that.
Screaming. He was so great. And his little song was great. And often when you've got the older actors who obviously don't have strong voices anymore, sometimes it can feel a bit awkward.
Yeah.
And I did not feel that with him at all. And Gus is canonically supposed to be an old, crusty, dusty old man cat who has seen it all and done it all and walked the boards.
He's done all the best performances.
Yes.
And that's the truth of Ian McKellen. Yes. He is that cat.
Yes.
And he knew it.
Delightful. And I loved it.
Victoria also happens to meet the mischievous twins, Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser, who enjoy causing trouble and messing with things in the house of their human family. They convince Victoria to join in the fun, but leave her tangled up in some necklaces when the family dog is alerted to their presence. Luckily, Mr. Mistopheles comes to the rescue Victoria, distracting the dog and escaping with her. They return to the group just in time for the arrival of the tribe's wise and beloved matriarch, Old Deuteronomy. The jellicle ball commences inside the abandoned Egyptian theatre. Victoria dances a ballet solo in the moonlight, but is distracted by Cassandra harassing Grisabella, a former glamour cat who is banished from the tribe for, among other things, her past allegiance with McCavity, a notorious criminal and con artist capable of teleportation. That makes no sense.
Who isn't, babe?
Victoria relates to Grisabella's feelings of abandonment. As Grisabella slinks away into the streets, old Deuteronomy witnesses their quiet camaraderie and assures Victoria that she can become a jellicle herself in time. First of all, I want to say this.
Yes.
Mango, cherry and rample teaser. They were a fucking brilliant part of the original show. It is two cockneys running around, nicking things, being cheeky. And the hilarious part of that is we all know that cat that for some reason has like adopted one of your socks.
Yes.
And loves the sock. Or has like nicked something from the garden next door and has brought it to you as a gift, and you're like, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
The cat stole one of your spades or something. Like
that's
heavy.
Cat.
That's a really strong cat.
Yeah, it's like the cat's taken an oven glove, you know?
Exactly.
The cat's tried to nick the ham that you were about to put in your sandwich.
Exactly.
That's the kind of cats they are. And
Yeah.
it's funny because they're obsessed with, well, you guys will never know if it was Mungo Jerry or Rumple Teaser who stole the roast joint for dinner. So we're going to get away with it. It's a ridiculous concept.
It's
because
great.
It's a silly song.
Yeah.
Because it's about cats.
They're very acrobatic.
Yes.
They do some really cool tricks. They do some they do like a double cartwheel together.
That's
like
sick.
it's so good. Oh my god, the way they butchered it.
Yeah.
They made it quiet. They made it less cockney. They didn't make it fun. They're just like rolling around this woman's dressing room,
just sort of stealing things. And it's so boring.
So dull.
And the whole thing about them is they're kind of in a show that's already all quite funny and lighthearted. They are literally the comic relief. They are so silly together, and they are so delightful. And when I was a kid, they were my favourite.
Yeah.
Even though they're definitely like quite obnoxious as an adult.
Oh yeah.
You know, they're so like kid coded. They're so silly and
they're
fun.
really naughty.
Exactly. Yeah. And they've sort of removed all of that, tried to make them like kind of cat burglars, and it was dull.
Really dull.
Just sucked all the energy out of the room.
Yeah.
Boring. And
hated it.
Yeah. And then when they abandoned Victoria, which I'm not saying they wouldn't do, but it's like a lot crueler than they would have been. Like they abandoned Victoria because she's like entangled in jewelry, basically to be eaten by a dog. And I'm like, that's
actually quite dark.
That's not
the vibe. That's not mischievous. No. That's not naughty. That's like, oh well, you're gonna die now, bye.
Yeah, and it just didn't feel very good. And I understood what they were trying to do was build this like romantic tension between Mr. Mistopheles and Victoria. So he like comes and saves her. Unfortunately, I'm going to tell you this right now. Mr. Mistopheles is not a straight cat. He's not interested in Victoria. He's interested in Rum Tum Tugger.
Yeah.
I've watched the play. I know who's dating who, okay?
Yeah.
And this is not it. It was honestly nothing. They could have completely cut it out. Nothing happens. There's no point for the plot, and they've ruined the song for absolutely no reason.
So at that point, old Deuteronomy turns up. Old Deuteronomy.
Yes.
Again, we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of the play where you have got a huge black man who is a beautiful baritone singer. His vocals are incredible. He has a huge presence.
Yes.
On stage, in the musical.
He is literally large. He has the biggest voice. His like coat is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
He feels like God or Mufasa.
He is honestly like majestic.
Yes.
He's so brilliant. So when they announced the cast, they were like, yo, we've gender swapped old Deuteronomy. And I was like, you're gonna have to convince me. And they went, Judi Dench? And I was like, you know what? All right. Okay, I can accept that because Judi Dench can do anything. However, I'm going to say this. Judi Dench cannot do old Deuteronomy.
I will say the first scene where they introduced her as old Deuteronomy, I actually really liked her. After that, it's primarily her sort of lying around in a cat bed, and it feels really weird.
Yeah.
And it feels a bit like she's in a hospital bed, and I just didn't enjoy it. And they did really wrong by her anyway. Her cat face stuff looks really awful. It kind of looks like she's got an old lady beard. They tried to like blend it in, and
she's
just doesn't
so
work.
pale. They've matched her skin tone to her fur.
Yeah.
So she's like a real, just like blob of skin.
Yeah, she looks ominous. They don't do anything
They
to her
haven't
hands.
edited her hands at all. At one point, she's wearing a ring. She just had a normal hand.
Oh no!
She had a ring on.
Not a little cat. Oh
Look!
yeah. Oh, she's
And
wearing,
I was like,
she's wearing
was she
rings
supposed to
all
be?
the way through, and like not cat rings. They just clearly didn't edit them out.
What's a cat ring?
Well, no, but not like, you know, cats that like some of them have collars and stuff. It's not like
it's not
part
trying
of her characterization.
It's not an interpretation of something like a sort of old matriarch from London would wear.
No.
I will say her coat is peng.
Yeah.
Her coat is really cool. She's got a lovely coat. But I think as a whole, as a sort of linchpin to the whole show, like, she is the matriarch. She is the one in charge of the whole of the jellicle cats. It doesn't work for me.
No.
It doesn't work for me at all.
Yeah, that first scene, I quite liked it. After that, it just got worse and worse.
Yeah.
And she's having to sing all of these things that are usually sung by this like huge booming voice. And
She
he
can't
just
sing.
has so much gravitas. And no, she can't sing because she's an old lady and she probably wasn't a terribly strong singer in the first place.
Yeah.
So that was a real bummer. I feel like that once again knocked a lot of energy out of it. Because something that was supposed to be like, oh, Deuteronomy, suddenly sort of becomes like, old Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
It's just not the same.
Right. So then we hit what I think is some of the most important but yet smallest parts of this show. And it is the character of Grisabella, the glamour cat.
Yes.
And she, in the stage play, is played by Elaine Page, who is perfection.
Yes.
And they said, Grisabella sings the song Memory, big performance. Jennifer Hudson. And I went,
Yes.
that's fine. You do it. You do it, Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah.
And what I will say is they don't make her look as sort of like physically haggard as I think they did successfully in the play. But Jennifer Hudson, for the first part of it, is acting her goddamn tits off. She is really giving that like mournful, fearful face in all of the shit they've put her in.
Yes.
With all the CG, with all the weird tail that's coming out the back of her coat, which I don't like. Like, she's really made it work for her. And I appreciated that. And I know so they do like Memory twice in the show. And you've got the big one at the end and you've got the sort of half one at the beginning. And I did initially forget that she doesn't sing the whole thing right at the beginning. But when she does sing it, I was like, oh, kind of getting into it. Maybe we're starting to get there. Bang, Victoria interrupts and does a whole new song that was never in the original musical, that isn't good, that isn't particularly tuneful, should not be next to one of the greatest musical theatre songs ever written.
If there is one thing you know about Cats, it's Memory. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the thing that Cats is most known for.
Yeah.
And almost everybody, even people who haven't seen Cats, know that song to an extent. So having that song kind of kick in and you go, oh, it's going to happen. And then have someone just going like, beautiful ghosts.
Yeah.
I just don't think that you want your new original, as far as I can remember, written at the last minute song jammed up against one of the most iconic pieces of musical theatre.
I'll tell you, every time I listen to that song, I cry.
It's so good.
It's so emotive.
Yeah.
That fear of like being forgotten, that fear of like being past your prime, things never being the same again, everything you took for granted you no longer have. Like, it's really, really emotive. It's a very human or feline experience.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can connect to that. And the way it is usually performed, it is just, it like absolutely pulls your heartstrings.
It's so
and it does it
mournful.
effortlessly.
Yes.
And Jennifer Hudson has got all of the tools to perform that song as well as anyone can. And I think the way they set it up and the way they follow it up with Victoria's little, oh, I just wanted somebody to like me song.
Yeah.
It was dreadful. It was really dreadful. I was really annoyed.
I will also say that I think that they did Jennifer Hudson's design kind of wrong. I don't think that the cat stuff fit her face, and it just made her look quite strange. I didn't like how intensely they had her perform, and one of the things that really annoyed me is, like, if you've ever heard that song, one of the main crescendo moments is her going, "Touch me," right?
That's the second performance.
Yeah, but the reason I mention that isn't because of the singing of it, but it's because in the stage play, there's a bit where she's like, "Touch me," and she puts her hand out, right? Because it's supposed to be like, will somebody touch me and bring me back into the fold?
Yeah.
And nobody does, right? But someone gets close, which it would be Victoria's character, and then doesn't, right? So in the second half, when she does get touched and brought back into the fold, it's like this big emotional moment.
Yeah.
But she's like, they don't highlight it.
No.
So
They
you
don't
don't
make
understand it.
They don't make a big enough point of that because, like, very famously, cats and, like, gaggles of cats, the minute a cat becomes ill, they kind of abandon it because they're like, oh, we don't want to catch whatever disease you've got.
Yeah.
Right? Which sounds really harsh, but animals, you know.
What it is.
And so that's why Grisabella is maligned by the rest of them. It's not because they just don't like... Well, I mean, in the play it is because they don't like her, because she used to be affiliated with McCavity. But there is also the suggestion that she is coming towards the end of her natural life, and they can basically, like, smell the rot on her,
She's
essentially.
ill and crusty.
Yeah.
And so this whole touch me thing, there's supposed to be a bit where she's like, please touch me, and then no one touches her, and then she's like, ugh.
Yeah.
But they just don't include that. So that's like the emotional linchpin of the whole damn thing, and they just got rid of it.
A seductive femme fatale named Bombalurina, which is played by Taylor Swift, interrupts the ball, distracting the jellicles present with a song and a dance number praising McCavity and simultaneously incapacitating them with catnip. When McCavity arrives and demands to be made the jellicle choice, old Deuteronomy deems him unworthy and is subsequently kidnapped and placed with most of the other contestants that he has kidnapped. As the jellicles recuperate, distraught over their leader's disappearance, Victoria suggests that Mr. Mistopheles uses his powers to conjure old Deuteronomy back. He tries several times, eventually making old Deuteronomy reappear. The cats rejoice and praise Mr. Mistopheles, and he and Victoria dance together. Meanwhile, a thwarted McCavity and Bombalurina teleport away from his victims, who begin to free themselves via Jenny Anydot's costume change. McCavity leaves his lackey, Growl Tiger, to walk the plank defenceless against the emancipated cats. Right. We'll do that bit because that was quite long. So first of all, Bombalurina, Taylor Swift. I remember the original performance of that song, and it's like two kind of more suggestive cat characters sort of delivering the origin story of McCavity, and it's a really catchy, really, really good song.
It is. And
I will say, whilst I don't think her vocals can be critiqued, I just didn't buy it. I didn't get on with it. I didn't really like it.
I think when you watch the stage production, especially because it has two voices and two singers, it becomes very big band, very high energy, and it really like feeds into the mystique of McCavity. Unfortunately, by this point, we've seen McCavity a bunch. We know it's Idris Elba. He's been there quipping with all the cats. He's not scary, and he is weird, and
he turns up with a completely smooth crotch and sort of like gyrates about. It's fucking vile.
So I didn't enjoy that at all. He's sort of taken off his like his spooky coat, and so now it's naked Idris Elba and Taylor Swift, and I think it sucks because neither of them are particularly strong dancers.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really work.
No.
And it also feels very rushed because McCavity now needs to kidnap about 6 cats in one go. So because he hasn't kidnapped most of the jellicles, and his plan in the film is he's going to kidnap all these cats, be the only one who could possibly win the jellicle ball, ba-blam, he gets to reincarnate as whatever he wants to be. Well, the situation is obviously that they haven't shown him kidnapping enough cats. So they then have him sort of running around, shoving everyone in a bag while Taylor Swift is singing, which it just wasn't very impactful. It just wasn't like a big enough moment, especially given that that should have been a moment of tension where it's like, damn, is he going to win? Because if you're not going to make him scary, like as Sophie said in the theatre production, he is scary. If you're not going to make him scary, then you at least want to make him feel like a legitimate threat. Right now, he's just teleporting you onto a boat with Ray Winston, which is just weird.
Poor Ray Winston.
It's more like something that could happen when you're drunk in the East End rather than something that
it's true.
would be done to you.
It's true. Then McCavity's like, right, well, I'm snatching up your bird. And old Deuteronomy is whisked off onto the barge with everyone else.
Yeah.
And everyone's crestfallen. They have lost their leader. You absolutely buy that they're like, oh my God, like, how could this happen? What has happened? What will we do? And they're like, last hope, Mr. Mistopheles, who I will say aesthetically isn't the way they do him in the play, which is fine. They sort of give him more of like a Pearly King look, which I thought really works. I really
very
liked.
London.
It's referential. It's interesting.
And it looks quite magical as well. If you don't know about Pearly Kings and Queens, I can imagine you looking at that and thinking that's does
quite
look like
cool.
something a magician might wear.
But the issue is with Mr. Mistopheles, he's not a singing character in the play. He's just a dancing character.
He's incredible.
He's a most amazing dancer. He can hit a freaking like jump split like no one has ever hit a jump split.
He is toe touching for the gods.
He's so amazing. Good. He must have been a cheerleader or a gymnast or something. But like throughout the whole film, Mr. Mistopheles is like kind of shit and falling over all the time.
Yeah.
He's got a touch of the Bella Swan about him. Can't stay upright. And I was like, what? Because it's such a disparity to the way the character was usually portrayed. And like, I think that was actually such a real shame because Mr. Mistopheles is probably one of the only like really confident, really like deft at what he does cats.
He's so magnificent. And when he starts performing, you were just like, because obviously Cats is full of great dancers.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of really good dance breakdowns in the film, which I wish could have been filmed slightly better, but actually were quite like energizing and joyful when they happened. And so this moment, which is usually Jason Derulo's character, Rum Tum Tugger, singing about magical Mr. Mistopheles as he is saving the day, right?
Yeah.
He is toe touching around, doing explosions, running around with ribbons, just being very over the
amazing
top and very talented. And so the vision of it isn't Mr. Mistopheles kind of is like a hokey little, you know...
pull some cards out of a hat kind of guy. Yeah.
He's I actually can do magic. I am like special. And it's also funny because the song, while he's doing all this really cool stuff, is about how like, oh, you can hear him purring on the roof, but actually he's downstairs. And it's so funny because it's the kind of stuff that cats would find impressive. You know what I mean? Like, but it's actually very minor.
It's like when you see a cat get through a gap of a door and you're like, how have you realistically done that? I've seen you splooted on the sofa. You're huge. But they have like somehow got like a liquid property to them and they can just like through the door. It's hilarious. So instead they've made him completely useless. And
he's like crying.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to save the day.
Shit. And so then he's running around with okay, I will say, he has a pencil instead of a magic wand. Quite like
cute.
that.
Loved that.
Pencil was quite cute. Yeah. And he's trying to magic up old Deuteronomy and it's not working. And then Judi Dench, old Deuteronomy, appears behind him and she is back.
No poof, no magic. How did she get there?
No, they actually could have done something cool there.
Yeah.
Decided not to. They were like, oh, we'll just rush this bit.
Yeah.
We're like, actually, like in the play, he's like caught in a net and like taken and it's really scary and like sad.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, this old beautiful cat with this amazing voice is like pulled off the stage forcibly. Yeah. And you're like, oh no, poor old Deuteronomy.
Exactly.
And then he's brought back in this big flourish.
This amazing like magical trick.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels so cool because he's like free and happy and everyone gets to celebrate with him. So you've got the film Mr. Mistopheles sort of going, oh, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Crying and everyone's really disappointed, which is not a cool magical moment. And then, you never see him successfully do it. You just sort of assume maybe when he turned his back, it worked. Which just doesn't feel fantastical at all. So great, Judi Dench is back. The issue is, that's how it goes in the play because the only person who's been kidnapped is old Deuteronomy. But in this, everyone's been kidnapped. So he just leaves the rest of them on the boat.
There's just no impact. Grisabella returns to the Egyptian theatre. Victoria vouches for her and urges her to sing her true feelings. Grisabella sings a passionate ballad about her mistakes, her former glory and her beauty, sentiments that touch the hearts of the jellicles. Old Deuteronomy names Grisabella the jellicle choice and sends her off to the Heaviside lair in the chandelier, repaired by Mr. Mistopheles' magic to float like a hot air balloon. McCavity, in one last attempt to reach the Heaviside lair, leaps onto a rope from the chandelier but falls onto the Nelson's column. The jellicles return to their kidnapped brethren and perch on a lion statue in Trafalgar Square. Watch Grisabella ascend as the morning sun appears above the horizon. After the congregation disperses, old Deuteronomy welcomes Victoria to the tribe, and that is the end.
Yeah.
So essentially what happens there is a performance of memory.
Yes.
And then a bunch of shit they didn't need.
No. And again, they clearly asked Jennifer Hudson to play
it small.
It's small and play it grounded and play it real.
Yeah. She speaks a lot of it.
I don't want that. Memory is huge. It is blasting. It shakes the windows.
Yeah.
I don't want you going, it's so easy to leave me.
Yeah.
Like, give me the emotion. It
exactly.
makes you feel something when you
She
hear someone
clutched
sing
it at the end.
She
gets to touch me, I was like, that's a belt. And if she doesn't belt it, I'm going to fucking call her up and be like, Jennifer, what was the vibe? What's going on? Why have you done this? How much money did they pay you to disservice this song in this way? But no, thankfully she hits it. It made me a bit emotional. I will say by that point of the song, usually I'm like crying.
Yes.
There's footage of me watching the Elaine Page version afterwards. I'm sure we'll include it. Emily sneakily recorded me. It was very rude.
Well, we were having a quick snack.
Very
so we put it on.
rude.
She was crying, so I had to get it.
I had to.
The point being, right, I don't think this is a Jennifer Hudson issue.
No.
I think this is
a directorial issue.
A lot of the issues that we have are choices the director made.
Yeah.
Choices to have everyone dance and sing at the same time.
Yeah.
Mistake. If you're not casting people who can do that well.
Yeah.
I think the way that they decided to animate ears and tails, and rather than going with a more costumey approach, kind of introduce so much CG, made everything look swimmy and uncomfortable. The way that they chose to sort of bring the performances down to ground them, huge error, because Cats is over the top and ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yes.
So I think that this is not a Jennifer Hudson can't belt, because she does when she needs to.
Yeah.
But it's we want to make this like this Oscar baity, snotty, sad performance, and it's unnecessary because the song is emotive and it will make you cry if it's done properly. So that's kind of a bummer.
I was flipping furious.
And you're
not gonna lie.
supposed to feel so relieved when she gets chosen.
I was just relieved it was over.
Oh my god, yeah! Because when you watch the stage play, you're supposed to be like, "Oh my god, thank goodness she's brought back in." When she hits the touch me, and then they do touch her, and then
it's just
moment,
it's. And then she ascends this beautiful staircase up to heaven, Heaviside lair, but you know. Up to heaven, and it's a really emotional moment, and you're like, you've just had memory, and then they're all singing to her, and they're like, we love you, we're sorry, you have been chosen, and it's this wonderful moment, and everyone's really emotional. But actually, no, what happens is she does memory about 5% of it. She steps into a chandelier, she's whisked up into the sky. That's it.
Everyone's
like, yeah, sure, fuck her off anyway.
Yeah.
No,
and so
pissed off.
It doesn't feel like she's been like chosen and accepted and loved into the group.
And that's
the whole point.
That is the end of Cats.
Yeah. Well,
and thank fucking God it was.
Then we go to Trafalgar Square and Judi
Dench.
And
then we have a whole load of bollocks.
10 minutes of rambling, awful, terrible, cringe-inducing,
didn't care,
nightmare. And also McCavity sort of tries to get on the hot air balloon, which is like, I don't like the way they make it like a real thing.
No.
Like it's supposed to be like a metaphorical ascendance.
Yeah.
Not like, yep, you get on the SpaceX flight to the moon.
Yeah, literally.
Like, it's weird. And I don't like that McCavity tries to hang on and then falls off. He doesn't even die.
McCavity doesn't want to be chosen in the play. He just wants to fuck everyone off and like scare them.
Yeah.
He's just a bad guy.
He's a bad spooky cat.
He's just a bad guy.
And then at that point we were about to pee ourselves, but joyfully we didn't because it ended.
Right, in which case I'm going to say, Emily, highlight, low light, and what would you rate it out of 5?
Highlight, Skimble Shanks.
Yeah.
Low light, I want to say like maybe James Corden or just the lack of energy. Just any time that they lent in to
was
that
great.
Boom was so much fun because that's the point.
Yeah.
And
out of 5.
A 1.
Yeah, fair.
It was bad. It was boring. How do you make Cats boring?
I don't know, because I love it. I loved it, but not in this format. Right, highlight, low light for me.
Yeah.
Highlight, I'm going to say Ian McKellen being off his fucking bobs.
He was.
Playing Gus. I thought he was great in it. It was really entertaining.
And the last Quaalude of the 70s.
Exactly,
Something
exactly.
was going on there and I loved it.
Low light, Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser. I got actually viscerally angry at that.
Awful.
You have ruined one of the best songs in it. 1 star just for Ian McKellen and a TikTok pedo. Oh my god, Paul, what's his face? Poor Skimble Shanks. Yeah, he gave off a bad vibe.
But yeah, they were the best bits.
Yeah.
You could have cut most of that film out.
Yeah.
It was so awful.
And on that note,
thank you for joining us
Thank
for
you.
this episode of Are You Enjoying This?
We did not enjoy Cats.
No, we did not. If you have film recommendations that you would like us to cover, talk about and or watch, please comment wherever you are watching or listening. If you enjoy this, please subscribe, follow, like, or whatever is available.
And also, if you liked Cats, tell me why we're wrong. Tell me. I want paragraphs about why we're wrong, because I am certain we are not in this case.
No, but I would love to hear it because somebody must have enjoyed this. I just don't know who it was.
No.
I will also say that we are on most socials as Are You Podcast. So go find us and follow so that you can see things. We'll
be back next week with a reaction to our next film.
But
whatever that will be, we're not going to tell you. The schedule going forward is going to be 1 week a reaction, 1 week a podcast, and that is how we will continue forward. The reactions are only available currently on YouTube, so head over there to check out our reactions.
Video.
Yes.
And obviously, then we will post the podcast part of it everywhere that you are. Please subscribe, please follow, please do all the nice things because
Thank
it really
you
helps us.
for being here.
And it has been a pleasure.
We love you.
See you in the next one. Farewell.
Kisses. Couldn't help myself.